The dark purple divine light suddenly erupted from the heart of the demonic flower that was slowly blooming. As the purple light shot out, the once bright world was instantly engulfed in darkness. It seemed as if all the light in the heavens and earth was devoured by the purple beam. In the great Luo heaven domain, many powerful cultivators couldn't help but change their expressions at this sight. From that purple light, they sensed an overwhelming aura of death. They had no doubt that if that purple light were aimed at them, there would be no escape, and they would certainly perish on the spot. This must be a great perfection-level divine art. One of the stronger cultivators shuddered, his face filled with awe and envy. Chen truly deserved to be called the top young cultivator of the northern domain. To be able to master such a great perfection-level divine art was no small feat. No wonder, even when facing opponents stronger than himself, he remained unafraid. Anyone could see that, facing such a terrifying assault from Chen, even a 6th grade supreme would find it hard to resist. In front of the reception hall, Elder Tian K's ancient eyes flashed with a gleam of sharpness as he observed the dimming sky. The explosive battle power that Chen displayed clearly caught him by surprise. A great perfection-level divine art was indeed powerful, but its difficulty in cultivation was exceedingly high. Even if an ordinary person somehow obtained such a divine art, they might not be able to master it. Yet Chen not only had the opportunity to acquire this divine art, but had also successfully cultivated it. This alone was enough to prove his exceptional capabilities. Thus, when Elder Tian K saw this scene, he couldn't help but think more highly of Chen. His previous disdain was gradually being tempered. At the very least, in his eyes, Chen was no longer just someone needing protection from the Nine Nether, but a true genius. This technique is indeed formidable, but don't underestimate the talents of my Nine Nether Sparrow clan. Although Elder Tian K recognized the power of Chen's divine art, he wasn't overly worried. When it came to depth of foundation, their Nine Nether Sparrow clan far surpassed the great Luo heaven domain. Therefore, their clan naturally possessed divine arts of the great perfection level. Qing, too, had once gained such a technique after completing a significant achievement and had successfully cultivated it. While Elder Tian K's thoughts turned, Qing, high in the sky, gazed solemnly at the solitary purple light in the heavens. He took a deep breath, and the nonchalance in his eyes vanished completely. Clearly, he hadn't expected Chen's counterattack to be so fierce. Chen was only a 5th grade supreme, but the attack he unleashed was enough to make even Qing, a 6th grade supreme, feel a chill in his heart. This human, who had formed a bloodline bond with the Nine Nether Prince, was certainly no ordinary person. However, despite his extraordinary nature, Qing wasn't naive enough to believe that he could easily deal with Chen. After all, he had a great perfection-level divine art as well. Qing's eyes flashed, and the next moment, his expression became grave. His hands moved like lightning, leaving behind afterimages as he formed ancient seals. As he performed the seals, brilliant spiritual light erupted around him, and crimson flames blazed from the massive body of the Nine Nether Flame Sparrow beneath his feet. In just a few breaths, the flames transformed into a massive fireball thousands of meters in size, resembling a burning sun from a distance. Qing stood at the center of this blazing sun. The mysterious, profound, world-destroying purple light pierced through the void, closing in within an instant. At this very moment, the enormous fireball surrounding Qing began to shrink at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, the massive fireball had reduced to the size of a human head, floating in Qing's palm. This scene caused many powerful cultivators from the great Luo heaven domain to flinch, as they could sense the terrifying destructive force contained within the fiery light ball. Qing's gaze fixed on the fireball in his palm. The ball glowed a deep crimson and was covered in ancient runes. It was solidified like a fiery red crystal sphere, yet within it, destruction itself seemed to lurk. Heavenly Flame Divine Art, Great Flame Pearl. Qing's gaze grew sharp, and he slowly raised his hand at a cold, chilling voice emerged from his mouth. Go. Boom. The crystal-like orb suddenly shook, and in the next instant, it transformed into a streak of red light that shot out violently. This red light pierced through the void, drawing a fiery trail across the sky. In the midst of countless trembling gazes, it collided head-on with the roaring dark purple divine light. Boom! At the moment of impact, a thunderous sound erupted, followed by a massive shockwave visibly spreading out. Even the empty sky above shattered under the force. The buildings below, which were on the verge of turning to ash under the impact, were shielded in time by Mandala, who flicked her fingers. The layer of spiritual light covered all the buildings. This light, though seemingly weak, remained utterly unshaken under the immense force of Mu Chen and Lu Qing's combined attack. Both Mu Chen and Lu Qing were also affected by the terrifying shockwave. The former's body moved, sinking swiftly into the great sun indestructible body atop his head. Lu Qing, on the other hand, stomped his foot. The Nine Nether flame sparrow beneath him immediately spread its massive wings in front like a colossal shield, with crimson flames burning fiercely atop them. Bang! The terrifying shockwave hit the two massive figures, causing the golden light on the great sun indestructible body to dim. Its massive form was sent stumbling backward, leaving huge marks in the sky with each step, while the ground below was shattered under the impact. Screech! The Nine Nether flame sparrow's fire feathers were continuously shattered by the shockwave, and its sharp, crane-like screeches echoed. Its massive body leveraged the retreating force to counter the powerful shock. The shockwave lasted only for several breaths, but when the final wave dissipated, the world brightened again. Both the great sun indestructible body and the Nine Nether flame sparrow appeared somewhat disheveled. Boom! Just as the shockwave faded, Lu Qing, who stood atop the Nine Nether flame sparrow, looked slightly pale, though his eyes flashed with sharp intensity. The Nine Nether flame sparrow immediately shot out, carrying an overwhelming flame, charging toward the great sun indestructible body. However, facing his relentless pursuit, Mu Chen had no intention of retreating. With a thought, the great sun indestructible body stepped forward like a giant golden palm, slamming down hard at the oncoming Nine Nether flame sparrow. The Nine Nether flame sparrow's wings met the strike, and the collision sent shockwaves throughout the sky. The two gigantic figures clashed in midair, each collision bringing forth the deafening sound of clashing metal. Bang! Another hard clash. Lu Qing's gaze locked onto Mu Chen, who had appeared above the great sun indestructible body once more. The latter's face was similarly pale, clearly drained from the earlier impacts. You're truly a rare opponent. Lu Qing's eyes burned with battle intent at this moment. He had completely regarded Mu Chen as an equal. The initial disdain he had felt was now gone, replaced by a sense of admiration. After all, to be able to hold his ground against a fifth-grade supreme, Lu Qing was confident that if the roles were reversed, he wouldn't be able to do the same. However, the more Lu Qing admired him, the more fierce his attacks became. Thus, with another hard clash, Lu Qing stomped his foot, and suddenly, a pair of massive wings burning with crimson flames stretched out from his back. His entire being was imbued with a surge of overwhelming spiritual energy. He flapped his wings, and his form became a blur, heading straight for Mu Chen with terrifying speed. Recognizing the strength of the great sun indestructible body, Lu Qing realized that if they continued fighting like this, he didn't know how long it would last. So he decided to take action with his true form, hoping to quickly end the battle. Want to end it quickly? Then I'll oblige. At this moment, Lu Qing's speed caused Mu Chen to change his expression slightly. His eyes gleamed as he instantly saw through Lu Qing's intentions. With a narrowed gaze, Mu Chen stomped his foot, and his figure shot backward, leaving the great sun indestructible body's range. Haha, you have courage, but your speed can't match mine. Lu Qing chuckled, flapping his wings again and increasing his speed, aiming to seize the initiative. Is that so? A smile curled on Mu Chen's face at this moment, and then his seal technique suddenly changed. A golden light burst from his back, followed by a loud phoenix cry that echoed throughout the heavens and earth. A pair of massive phoenix wings, glowing with a purple-gold hue, suddenly extended from Mu Chen's back at the same time. A strange sense of pressure naturally radiated from those wings. That was the pressure of the true phoenix. Upon sensing this pressure, Lu Qing's expression dramatically changed. In his eyes, disbelief appeared for the first time. The overwhelming pressure made his bloodline tremble uncontrollably. The Nine Nether Sparrow clan, in terms of bloodline, also possessed some phoenix blood, as the ancient undying bird was a supermutated divine beast of the Phoenix clan that in the world of spirit beasts and divine beasts. High-ranking bloodlines carry unique pressures, and ordinary spirit beasts or divine beasts are often suppressed when facing this level of power. Lu Qing's bloodline, the Nine Nether Flame Sparrow, was also a divine beast, but when suddenly facing this true phoenix pressure, although faint, it still left him struggling. Unprepared, Chen noticed Lu Qing's momentary daze, and his eyes flickered. With a flap of his phoenix wings, he turned into a streak of light, shooting toward Lu Qing. However, just as he shot forward, his pupils contracted sharply. The weathered figure appeared before him like a ghost. It was Elder Tian Qiu. Chen furrowed his brows and said, "Elder Tian K. You." His voice trailed off as he stopped mid-sentence. Elder Tian K's eyes were now locked onto him, glowing with an intimidating light. After a moment, he slowly spoke, each word weighed with seriousness. "True phoenix pressure?" Elder Tian K. Above in the sky, Chen frowned as he looked at the elder who had suddenly appeared to block his path. Was this old man planning to personally intervene because the situation was turning dire? That would be shameless. Whoosh! Just as Chen furrowed his brow, a sound of wind breaking rang out beside him. Mandala, Nine Nether, and the three sovereigns appeared in a flash. They all turned their gazes toward Elder Tian K, clearly displeased with his sudden intervention in the confrontation between Chen and Lu Qing. "Elder Tian K, I have treated you with respect as a guest and tolerated your actions. But don't think for a moment that my great Luo Heaven domain will allow you to bully us at will," Mandala said coldly. Seeing Mandala's anger, Elder Tian K didn't dare be negligent. He hurriedly replied, "This time, I have indeed overstepped in this battle. Chen has shown remarkable abilities. The young generation from the Northern Domain's first rank holds some credibility." Behind Elder Tian K, Lu Qing also rushed over. He did not refute Elder Tian K's words, as he had indeed not gained much of an advantage in their earlier exchange. Chen's ability to fight him to this point with his 5th grade supreme strength already proved his excellence. If their battle had continued, both would likely have been forced to give their all, and at that point, control over their power would be lost. A single mistake could lead to severe injury or even death. Upon hearing Elder Tian K's words, Chen relaxed his furrowed brows. He didn't want to offend the Nine Nether Sparrow clan too much, so it was best for this confrontation to come to an end. He also knew that, even if the battle continued, he would be unlikely to defeat Lu Qing. This guy's peak 6th grade supreme combat power was even slightly stronger than the heavenly dragon tiger he encountered in the Earth Supreme Treasure. Continuing this fight would most likely lead to mutual destruction. Elder Tian K managed to calm everyone's anger before turning his intense gaze back to Chen, asking, "Where did this true phoenix pressure come from?" Although the true phoenix pressure that flowed from Chen was faint for the Nine Nether Sparrow clan, which also carried traces of the undying bird bloodline, the presence of that faint pressure was unmistakable in the spirit beast world. A true phoenix was considered a top-tier divine beast even among the highest-ranked divine beasts. Every adult true phoenix possessed terrifying power comparable to the heavenly supreme. Such a presence, even within the Phoenix clan, is extremely rare. This kind of true phoenix pressure is something even the ordinary Phoenix and Huang clans do not possess. Therefore, when Elder Tian K and Lu Qing sensed that Chen was able to exude this pressure, they were so moved and incredulous. Chen paused for a moment upon hearing this, then said, "This is the dragon and phoenix body I cultivated in the dragon phoenix heaven." As for the so-called true phoenix pressure, he didn't feel anything himself. In the past, when he used his dragon and phoenix body to fight, his opponents didn't seem to be affected by this faint true phoenix pressure at all. It seemed that this so-called true phoenix pressure could only be sensed by descendants of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan, who inherited a trace of the undying bird bloodline. If that was the case, he should also have a trace of true dragon pressure. But it seemed that only those spirit beasts with dragon bloodline could sense it. Dragon Phoenix Heaven? Elder Tian K frowned. Is it the Dragon Phoenix Heaven in the northern domain? I've heard of it. They say true dragons and true phoenixes fell there. We also sent our people into it. Though they gained something, none of them ever came close to possessing a trace of true phoenix pressure like you. This is a chance that can only be obtained by those who ascend to the 10th step of the Dragon Phoenix ladder in the Dragon Phoenix Heaven. Chen is the only person in hundreds of years who has managed to reach the 10th step, Mandala said lightly. Elder Tian K was silent, his expression revealing that he understood the significance of the Dragon Phoenix ladder. It seemed that even the most talented members of their clan had failed to ascend the 10th step. Yet, here was Chen, who had achieved it. Elder Tian K, since you already know the outcome of Chen's earlier clash with Lu Qing, can we consider this matter settled? Nine Nether's beautiful eyes fixed on Elder Tian K as she spoke. Elder Tian K smiled faintly before shaking his head. You. Nine Nether's brows furrowed in anger, her silver teeth gritting. You should understand, little Nine Nether, this matter is of great importance. Even I cannot make a decision on it, Elder Tian K said, his gaze growing stern as he looked at Nine Nether. You are the purest bloodline of our Nine Nether Sparrow clan in thousands of years. Among our people, you are the most likely to awaken the undying bird bloodline and eventually evolve into a true ancient undying bird. You are the future pillar of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan, so any obstacle that might hinder your progress, we will go to great lengths to eliminate. At this point, his gaze flicked toward Chen. The sharpness and resolve in his eyes made even Chen's heart skip a beat. Mandala's expression tightened as she heard this. It seemed that she had underestimated the importance of Nine Nether within the Nine Nether Sparrow clan. If what Elder Tian K said was true, then Nine Nether was likely to become a terrifying presence comparable to the Heavenly Supreme. For a future Heavenly Supreme, the Nine Nether Sparrow clan would offer almost pathological protection. After all, in the entire history of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan, no Heavenly Supreme had ever emerged. Right now, however, Chen's bloodline connection with Nine Nether was clearly seen as a hidden danger by the Nine Nether Sparrow clan. If Chen were to perish, even if Nine Nether survived, she would likely pay an enormous price. She might even fail to complete her final evolution. The consequences of that would be hard to bear for the Nine Nether Sparrow clan. In that case, today's matter was indeed troublesome. Although Mandala wasn't afraid of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan, she had to admit that this ancient spirit beast clan's foundation was far deeper than that of the Great Luo Heaven Domain. The entire Great Luo Heaven Domain relied entirely on her support. If she fell, the domain would quickly meet the same fate as the Divine Hall. The Nine Nether Sparrow clan, however, was different. Though they lacked a Heavenly Supreme, they had several Earth Supremes. Even if Elder Tian K fell, the Nine Nether Sparrow clan would suffer heavy injuries, but they wouldn't be destroyed. Nine Nether's hand clenched tightly at this moment. She stared intently at Elder Tian K and, after a moment, took a deep breath. If you make a reckless move, then don't blame me for doing the same. Hearing the intense threat in Nine Nether's words, Elder Tian K's expression darkened. He looked at the defiant Nine Nether, seemingly ready to be angry, but ultimately sighed and gave a bitter smile. Boy, are you just going to hide behind? Elder Tian K's gaze shifted to Chen. Chen gently pulled Nine Nether behind him and smiled faintly at Elder Tian Quebec. If things really come down to the worst-case scenario, I'm willing to sever the bloodline connection. I know you must have a way to do so. If there really is no other choice, then naturally, he wouldn't drag the Nine Nether into it, because doing so might even implicate the entire Great Luo Heaven Domain. Even though Mandala would intervene to protect him, the cost might be too much for even her to bear. He truly didn't want to see that scene unfold. Chen. Nine Nether was slightly angered that, of course, the Nine Nether Sparrow clan had ways to break the bloodline connection, but doing so would undoubtedly cause Chen immense harm. Heh, now you're acting like a man. Elder Tian K chuckled, then his eyes flickered slightly, before he said, forcefully severing the bloodline connection is the last resort. However, it might not be necessary, but that depends on you. Upon hearing Elder Tian K's words, Chen's heart stirred. Does Elder Tian K have another way? Nine Nether, standing beside him, also stared intently at Elder Tian K, though there was a trace of doubt in her gaze. She was very clear about the bloodline connection, and aside from forcibly breaking it, there seemed to be no other way. To break the bloodline connection, there really is no other method. Elder Tian Ke smiled, glancing at the disappointed Mu Chun, then smiled again. However, if you can get the Nine Nether Sparrow clan to agree, then this matter can be settled, and in the process, you might even gain the friendship of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan. Mu Chen heard this and immediately shook his head with a bitter smile. Although he hadn't interacted with the Nine Nether Sparrow clan yet, judging from Elder Tian Ke's earlier reaction, they would definitely not allow him to maintain this bloodline connection with Nine Nether. Elder Tian Ke's suggestion was clearly a difficult challenge. Enough with the nonsense. Nine Nether understood the intricacies of the situation. She clenched her silver teeth and said angrily. Elder Tian Ke was unbothered by Nine Nether's fury and changed the subject, saying, Nine Nether, do you know why your clan summoned you back at this time? Nine Nether was stunned for a moment, then frowned and shook her head. She had thought that her clan had noticed some issue with her bloodline, but from Elder Tian Ke's words, there seemed to be another reason. Seeing her confusion, Elder Tian Ke sighed lightly and shook his head. It's because the Divine Beast Plains are about to appear. Divine Beast Plains? When the words Divine Beast Plains reached her ears, Nine Nether's pupils instantly contracted, and her cold, beautiful face began to shift through a range of expressions. Eventually, she fell silent. From her demeanor, it was clear she understood the significance of the Divine Beast Plains. 2 months from now, go to the Nine Nether Sparrow clan. Mandala's expression didn't show any surprise at Mu Chen's decision. She gave him a glance and said, but what Elder Tian Ke said is indeed correct. With your current strength, if you don't rely on the power of battle will, taking that 4th spot in the Nine Nether Sparrow clan won't be easy. Mu Chun was only a 5th grade supreme right now, and among the Nine Nether Sparrow clan, the 2 young talents competing for the final spot were even stronger than Lu Qing. They were probably close to reaching the 7th grade supreme level. Adding their divine beast physique into the mix, their combat abilities were extraordinary. It would be difficult for Mu Chun to snatch the spot from them. Moreover, even if he managed to win, helping Nine Nether obtain the Phoenix Godblood in the Divine Beast Plains would mean facing other prodigies from the Spirit Beast clans, some of whom might even be stronger than the ones he was currently up against. All of this made Mu Chen's 5th grade supreme strength look somewhat inadequate. Despite Mandala's blunt words, Mu Chen didn't show much embarrassment. Instead, he smiled faintly and said, That's true, but I still have 2 months, don't I? Mandala and the 3 sovereigns immediately froze. Their eyes brightened as they turned to look at Mu Chen. Mu Chen noticed their gaze and nodded slightly. Back when he broke through to the 5th grade supreme using the Fallen Source Pill at the Fallen Battlefield, he hadn't forced any further breakthroughs afterward. Instead, he chose to nurture the spiritual energy within his body. Over the course of 6 months, his spiritual energy had quietly reached a perfect state. During recent cultivation, he could feel the spiritual energy surging within the Supreme Sea, a smooth and well-rounded sensation that had completely replaced the roughness from his initial breakthrough. Now, he was ready to break through again. However, I'll need the Domain Master's assistance for this. Mu Chen glanced at Mandala, smiling. Speak up. Mandala waved her hand grandly, exuding a sense of boldness. This breakthrough will likely require a significant amount of supreme spiritual liquid. So, I'll need to borrow 1 million from the Domain Master, Mu Chen said with a smile. A breakthrough always demands an immense reserve of spiritual energy, but with the Fallen Source Pills already used up, the only option left is to use supreme spiritual liquid. However, this essential item for cultivation was currently out of reach for Mu Chen, as his pockets were empty. Although the Nine Nether Palace had recently expanded its influence, rapidly increasing the number of cities under its control to become the top power in the Great Luo Heavenly Domain, this did not mean Mu Chen was flush with resources. The expansion of the Nine Nether Palace meant an even larger consumption of supreme spiritual liquid. Moreover, the cities hadn't yet begun contributing their tribute, and it would be unwise for the Nine Nether Palace to show any signs of exploiting them before the cities had been fully integrated. Otherwise, it would risk causing unrest. 1 million supreme spiritual liquid? Sure that I'll have someone send it over later, Mandala replied without hesitation. After all, Chen had made a tremendous contribution in the Grand Hunting War. These achievements could not be repaid simply by expanding the Nine Nether Palace. You're one of our people from the Great Luo Heavenly Domain. This time, when you go to the Nine Nether Sparrow clan, we can't let them look down on you. So if you have any other requests, feel free to ask. My Great Luo Heavenly Domain will fully accommodate you, Mandala said with a grand, confident air. Seeing Mandala's bold and generous attitude, Chen couldn't help but chuckle. After thinking for a moment, he didn't hold back and replied, "Since that's the case, then could you also help me gather some spirit array diagrams? If possible, heavenly grade diagrams would be ideal, heavenly grade diagrams." Upon hearing this, Mandala's golden eyes sparkled with a flash of light. She looked Chen up and down before slowly speaking. "You can now lay out a heavenly grade spirit array? Does that mean you've become a heavenly grade spirit array master?" Spirit array masters were categorized into 3 ranks: heaven, earth, and man, corresponding to the 9 supreme grades. Previously, even though Chen could set up the 4 lotus form of the demonic lotus slaughter array, it was still considered an earth grade spirit array. At that time, he was far from reaching the level of laying out a heavenly grade spirit array. In fact, since Chen hadn't used spirit arrays in combat for a long time, even Mandala had nearly forgotten about his identity as a spirit array master. But now, when Chen brought it up, they all suddenly recalled that a battle array master was a branch of the spirit array master, and Chen had an exceptional talent in spirit arrays, which explained his remarkable progress in battle will. The 3 sovereigns exchanged uncertain glances. If Chen could really lay out a heavenly grade spirit array, even a lower tier one would be enough to contend with a 7th grade supreme. Seeing the surprised looks from Mandala and the 3 sovereigns, Chen smiled gently and said, "Although it's still a bit rough, I've gained some insight. If I could study heavenly grade diagrams, I believe I'd make further progress." In the past year, Chen hadn't focused heavily on cultivating spirit arrays, but that didn't mean he had neglected them. His focus had just shifted. Additionally, after coming into contact with battle will, he realized there were some commonalities between the two that while studying battle will, he sometimes had new insights into spirit arrays, which had subtly improved his understanding of them. However, due to the tight schedule and his immediate involvement in the Grand Hunting War, Chen hadn't had time to seek out heavenly grade spirit arrays for study. But now, it was clear that he needed to shift his focus back, as these arrays would become a crucial part of his strategy to help the Nine Nether Palace secure the ancient, undying bird divine blood. "It seems you've hidden quite a bit from us. No wonder you dared to take on this task," Mandala said, her eyes glinting. She couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. With that, she could truly trust Chen to go to the divine beast plains. After all, the various divine beasts and geniuses from the spirit beast clans were far from easy opponents. They would be much stronger than the younger generation from the northern domain. Since that's the case, going to the divine beast plains is a great opportunity for you. It might even help you break through to the 2nd layer of the dragon and phoenix scripture. Oh. Chen's heart stirred when he heard those words. The dragon and phoenix scripture had not only allowed him to cultivate the dragon and phoenix body, but it had also granted him the true dragon and true phoenix marks. Although this was only the 1st level of the technique, it had already provided Chen with immense help. The true dragon mark gave him powerful offensive abilities and the means to defend in life or death situations, while the true phoenix mark enhanced his speed in the numerous battles he had fought before. They had clearly played a significant role in his achievements. The 1st level of the dragon and phoenix scripture involved activating the true spirits, which was when the true dragon and true phoenix marks were born. The 2nd level, however, was about transformation. As the name suggested, once he reached that stage, the true dragon and true phoenix marks would be freed from Chen's body, granting him a transformative power that could reshape his entire being. That would undoubtedly be a qualitative change. At that point, the true power of the dragon and phoenix scripture would slowly begin to manifest. In the past, Chen had longed for this. But the cultivation of the dragon and phoenix scripture was incredibly difficult. Despite all his efforts, he had never been able to reach the 2nd level. The cultivation required vast amounts of divine beast blood, which was not easy to obtain in the Great Thousand Worlds. Gathering it was an extremely difficult task. However, in the divine beast plains, there were numerous fallen divine beasts, even some supreme divine beasts. If Chen was fortunate enough to obtain some, it was highly possible that he could take the dragon and phoenix scripture to the second level. It seems the divine beast plains is truly a place I must visit. Chen thought to himself, smiling faintly as he muttered, I'll handle the heavenly grade formation diagrams. Although time is a bit tight, it should still be possible to gather them, but it will come at a price. Mandala nodded and said, the heavenly grade formation diagrams were quite valuable, and finding them in a short time would naturally require a substantial amount of supreme spiritual liquid. Thanks for the trouble. Chen nodded. He was fortunate to have the support of the great Luo Heaven Domain now. Otherwise, relying on his own strength, he would have been overwhelmed by the situation. Within the next 2 months, it seems I'll need to start absorbing that spirit divine liquid. Otherwise, when I take you to the Nine Nether Sparrow clan, if anything goes wrong. Mandala spoke calmly. Although Chen seemed well prepared, Mandala had to make additional preparations. That was in case Chen failed in securing a spot, and the Nine Nether Sparrow clan didn't want to let him go, attempting to imprison him. In that case, she would have to confront the powerful forces of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan. The Nine Nether Sparrow clan had deep foundations. While they didn't have a heavenly supreme, if Mandala couldn't break through to the upper earth supreme level, their deterrence wouldn't be insignificant. Chen immediately understood Mandala's concerns upon hearing this. He pursed his lips and softly said, Thank you. He understood how risky Mandala's actions were. After all, the Nine Nether Sparrow clan was not a force that could be compared to those in the northern domain. Faced with them, his great Luo Heaven Domain seemed quite thin. Yet, despite this, Mandala still chose to support him. This sentiment made Chen deeply grateful and moved at this moment. He realized how wise it had been to give Mandala the Starry Sky demon-suppressing tower and the last spirit divine liquid. If he hadn't supported her so wholeheartedly, he might not have earned such unwavering friendship from Mandala. We don't need to talk about all that sentimental stuff. Mandala waved her hand dismissively. The only thing you need to focus on now is breaking through in these 2 months and reaching the 6th grade supreme. Chen smiled and nodded. There was a deep confidence in his black eyes that in 2 months, everything would be revealed. Deep within the great Luo Heaven Domain, a solitary peak stood tall. This peak was so high that it overlooked half of the great Luo Heaven Domain, and it was also the place with the most concentrated spiritual energy in the entire domain in the past. This had been Mandala's personal cultivation area. Ordinary members of the great Luo Heaven Domain could not enter. However, this time, in order to give Chen the best conditions for his breakthrough, Mandala had lent this cultivation ground this moment. On top of the solitary peak, there was a stone chamber carved directly into the mountainside. Chen stood before the stone chamber, gazing at the faint mist that enveloped the mountains. That a look of awe appeared in his eyes. Because the mist is formed by spiritual energy, it clearly indicates just how rich and pure the spiritual energy in this area is. Clearly, within this region, there are many spirit gathering arrays or similar spiritual formations that have drawn in the entire spiritual energy of the great Luo Heaven. This is indeed an excellent place for cultivation. Chen smiled slightly, no longer hesitating. He turned and entered the stone chamber, then sealed the entrance. Sitting cross-legged on the stone bed inside the spacious cave, he began to meditate. He did not immediately attempt to break through. Instead, he slowly closed his eyes, his mind gradually calming down. The surrounding spiritual energy transformed into mist, continuously pouring into his body through his breath and pores that he needed to refine his state to perfection. This process took nearly 5 days. On the 5th day, Chen's tightly shut eyes finally opened. His originally pitch-black eyes now shimmered with a crystalline glow, a sign that the spiritual energy within his body had surged to its peak. Chen could feel that his limbs and bones seemed to be filled with boundless spiritual power. Every movement, every gesture, contained the force to shatter mountains. It's almost time, Chen murmured. Then his eyes blazed with spiritual light. and he flicked his finger. Immediately, a rainbow light howled out, forming a boiling river that circled within the vast stone chamber. This river glowed with a crystalline color, and the water inside boiled. The spiritual energy it released made the air feel humid, with faint signs of water droplets forming and falling. This river was formed by 1,000,000 supreme spiritual liquids. Mu Chen looked up at the spiritual river, then formed a hand seal. His mouth slightly opened, and a torrent of spiritual energy roared down, flowing directly into his mouth. The immense spiritual power erupted within Mu Chen's body. However, Mu Chen's expression remained calm. He steadily changed his hand seals, guiding the overwhelming spiritual power through his meridians, refining it before continuously absorbing it into the Supreme Sea within his body. In the Supreme Sea, the vast spiritual power poured down like a torrential rain. The sea level, though slowly, began to rise at a steady pace. Sensing the increase in spiritual energy within the Supreme Sea, Mu Chen's expression remained unchanged. His eyes gradually closed again. This round of cultivation still needed some time to cultivate further until the critical moment arrived for the breakthrough. For now, he only needed to maintain the constant flow of spiritual energy into the Supreme Sea. Thus, Mu Chen's mind gradually settled. He started to discard all distractions and entered a deeper state of cultivation. When he closed his eyes again, it would not be until 10 days later that he reopened them. During these 10 days, he had absorbed nearly 1/5 of the 1,000,000 supreme spiritual liquids, which caused his skin and muscles to continuously radiate brilliant spiritual light. The energy swirling within his body surged in waves, signaling that the spiritual power within him had almost reached its peak. Still not enough. Mu Chen shook his head slightly. There was still some distance to the breakthrough, so he closed his eyes again. Over the next period of time, Mu Chen opened his eyes twice more. With each opening, the river formed by the supreme spiritual liquids shrank by the time he opened his eyes for the 4th time. The once boiling river had transformed into a stream, its volume reduced by 5 times at this point. A whole month had passed. Now, the spiritual light surrounding Mu Chen had grown to its maximum intensity. Under this light, even his figure became indistinct, and from a distance, he looked like a blazing spiritual sun. A powerful spiritual fluctuation quietly rippled through the air, causing the stone chamber to tremble slightly. With cracks subtly spreading, Mu Chen took a deep breath, then moved his mouth as if swallowing water like a whale, directly ingesting all the remaining supreme spiritual liquids in one go. Buzz! The spiritual light bursting from his body instantly grew to an indescribable intensity. At the same time, the spiritual energy in his Supreme Sea reached its peak. It was time to break through. Mu Chen closed his eyes for the 5th time. However, he knew that when he opened them again, he would have truly stepped into the rank of a 6th grade Supreme. This final meditation lasted for a full half-month. Outside the lone peak, the area was completely deserted. When Mu Chen began his secluded breakthrough, Mandala had sealed off the place, prohibiting anyone from the Great Luo Heaven Domain from entering to prevent any disturbances. At this moment, in the sky beyond the lone peak, several figures appeared. Leading them was Mandala, followed closely by the 3 sovereigns. As soon as they arrived, their gazes locked onto the tightly sealed stone cave at the mountain's peak. The spiritual array isolated the cave, completely shielding any fluctuations within, making it impossible for outsiders to probe. It's already been a month and a half. Has Mu Chen still not completed his breakthrough? If he doesn't come out soon, the Nine Nether Sparrow clan might finalize their decision regarding the quota. The Heavenly Vulture Emperor couldn't help but comment as he stared at the sealed stone cave. Due to his connection with the Nine Nether Sparrow clan, he had some insight into their affairs. Ever since Elder Tian K brought Nine Nether back to the clan, the entire Nine Nether Sparrow clan had been in turmoil over the Bloodline bond issue. Some of the more cold-hearted elders had even considered sending an army to exert pressure on the Great Luo Heaven Domain. However, Elder Tian K ultimately managed to dissuade them. Of course, Nine Nether's unwavering resistance also played a crucial role. Her near-sacrificial determination forced even the most radical elders of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan to restrain themselves. After all, Nine Nether's father was the clan leader, and she herself was the most promising candidate in 1,000 years to evolve into an ancient, undying bird. Her stance and decisions could not be ignored. Nevertheless, this was only a temporary delay. If Chen failed to return before the final decision on the quota, even the elders who had been hesitating because of Nine Nether might have no choice but to accept more extreme measures to purify her bloodline. At that point, both Chen and the Great Luo Heaven Domain would face a dire situation. Breakthroughs are difficult to predict. Forcing it won't bring any benefits. Mandala remained indifferent. The cold glint flashed through her golden eyes as she said icily, "If the Nine Nether Sparrow clan doesn't have the patience to wait even this long, then there's nothing to discuss. If they truly want a war, we'll gladly oblige. I'd like to see how many of their Earth Supremes will fall by my hands." A trace of killing intent seeped into her voice, causing the entire atmosphere to darken instantly. The surrounding spiritual energy even showed signs of momentary stagnation. The three sovereigns felt a chill creep over their skin as they sensed her intent. They exchanged glances, their eyes filled with shock. Mandala hadn't seemed different from a month ago, but they were keenly aware that she had grown far stronger. Congratulations to the domain ruler for truly stepping into the rank of Upper Earth Supreme. The sleeping king shook his head in amazement before chuckling. It was evident that her transformation was due to her month-long seclusion, during which she had taken the final step, from a half-step Upper Earth Supreme to a true Upper Earth Supreme. Though it was merely a half-step difference, the three sovereigns knew all too well how vast the gulf truly was. The Grand Hunting War had already demonstrated this. After all, the Fourth Hall Master's spirit puppet had single-handedly held its ground against the 7 Earth Supremes of the Northern Domain. While internal strife among the 7 Earth Supremes had played a role, it was clear that if war did break out, and Mandala was determined enough, the Nine Nether Sparrow clan might indeed lose several Earth Supremes. Such a price was something even they could not afford. Moreover, Mandala possessed a true sacred artifact, the Starry Sky Demon Suppressing Tower. With its power, she wouldn't be considered weak even among Upper Earth Supremes. Boom. Just as the three sovereigns were marveling at Mandala's breakthrough, the lone peak suddenly trembled. Then, a piercing cry, clear and thunderous like a rolling storm, erupted from within the mountain and roared through the heavens. Boom. The stone cave's entrance instantly shattered, sending debris flying in all directions. A streak of light shot out from the depths of the mountain. Under the astonished yet delighted gazes of the three sovereigns and the others, that figure soared into the sky and hovered above them, standing tall in the air. The three sovereigns looked over, only to see Chen standing in mid-air at this moment. His entire body was surrounded by a surge of spiritual light, and his black eyes sparkled like gems, emitting a fierce radiance that struck the soul that as they gazed at Chen. The three sovereigns instantly let out a relieved sigh, for they could easily tell that Chen, compared to a month and a half ago, had grown more than twice as powerful. It was clear that Chen had successfully completed his breakthrough and officially stepped into the 6th grade Supreme. Heh, congratulations, King, for stepping into the 6th grade, the three sovereigns said with smiles. Chen's eyes gradually dimmed as he smiled at Mandala and the three sovereigns, before swiftly flying toward them. Seeing him approach, the coldness on Mandala's face dissipated. She clenched her small hand, and several rays of light flashed out, finally transforming into 5 scrolls of varying colors. "These are the formation diagrams you asked me to find. 2 of them are heavenly grade," she said. Hearing this, Chen's heart immediately filled with joy. His gaze shifted toward the 5 scrolls before him, each exuding a strange fluctuation.